Hello. It's all about the inflection when you say hello at the beginning of talking about something. My name's Luke, and these are my paintings. And back there in the corner, there's a video of kind of a documentation of some of my work out at Open Walking. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It's the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy he goes and sells all he has and buys that field. Some of my earliest memories are of a feeling I can't fully put into words. My family goes to a cottage on Little Sebago Lake in Maine for a couple weeks every summer. When I was a child, I hated going to that cottage. For my family members who are here tonight, I really like it now. So, but when I was a kid, it was terrible. It's a small place with older furniture, and sometimes by the time we got there in late July or early August, a few spiders had made their homes in the corners of our shower stall. The back porch of the cottage looks out over a small inlet of the lake. You exit onto the porch through a creaky screen door and descend a long flight of wooden stairs, and you're standing on a little beach. There's a dock and a boathouse, and most years there was a tent where my dad and I slept because there weren't enough beds in the cottage for all of us. And then there's the lake. Now that I'm 26, I can see that the lake behind the cottage is a reasonable size. It's actually quite small. But when I was a child, it seemed immense. The water reflected the blue of the sky, and beneath the blue on the surface was a darkness my eyes couldn't penetrate. And the sky itself was a great emptiness that spanned over the inlet and the beach and the forests and the cottage and the whole earth. And that emptiness was a weight that felt like it might crush me, and a substance into which I felt like I might dissolve. Open spaces weren't the only places where I had this experience. It was in the light that pressed down on my bed sheets in the early morning, and the gray clouds that hung over the decay of the city, and the way time stretched through the yellow of late afternoon and into the blue of evening before the dark. Throughout my childhood, a feeling of crushing emptiness and a sense that I would dissolve was a daily experience. But those are not really the names of the thing I was experiencing. It doesn't have a name. You only know it if you too have experienced it. I spent most of my childhood and adolescence running from that thing. Through films and music and relationships and emotionally charged worship services, I was looking for a way out. And I wasn't just looking for a way to convince myself that things were better than they are, to live in my imagination or to maintain a naive optimism about the world. I wanted, truly and authentically, to live in a different world. One in which everyday things weren't so heavy. One in which people had hope for something that felt substantial and satisfying. And one in which I had a purpose, something significant that I would do with my life. One in which none of us had to be alone. I wanted to escape this world, but I also wanted the world into which I escaped to be a real one. For a long time I thought I could have both an escape and a reality. I thought that Christianity could offer me a community that believed in truth and also offered a way out of the world. I took on the belief that my spirit would go to heaven when I died and I would finally be free. I took on the belief that the gospel could change this world, that the kingdom of heaven might ultimately come here, and that things would not be like they are. I began to believe that I could be instrumental in changing the world, that through music and stories and humanitarian efforts, I could help all of us imagine ourselves into ways of being that were not so harsh, into places that were not so painful. But my desire to escape the harshness of the world, my desire to know and live according to the truth were, in fact, opposing forces. When I was 18, I hitchhiked to Philadelphia with no money or supplies because changing the world required me to do more than just go to college and learn the right things. I needed to become a certain kind of person, someone who's faithful and honest and upright. I needed to know the reality of the world, not just what I imagined it to be like. Experiences like this one led me not farther away from the world, but closer to it. When I was 22, I came here and took elective courses outside my major in anthropology, philosophy, religion, and literature, because making the world less painful required me to become proficient in more than just a single discipline. I needed to know the truth about what it is to be in the world, about the culture of the world that we live in, about the nature of reality itself, even if the truth of those things was not what I believed it to be, even if I had to change my mind to know it. Decisions like this one led me not farther away from reality, but farther into it. I came to the book world at the suggestion of one of the wisest and kindest people that I've met, the best professor that I know, and now also a good friend, Andrew Hendrickson. And I came for the same reason I did all the other things that I did. I was searching for a way to change the world, and I was seeking the reality of things. I'd never studied fine art before in my life, and before Andrew spoke to me, I didn't have any interest in it at all. I I didn't really understand what I was looking at when I looked at artwork and paintings and things like that. And no one in fine art had been able to make it clear to me. I probably just hadn't had many conversations with anyone in fine art. As far as I could tell, the thing that people seemed to be doing in art was looking around and talking about things and pretending like there was something objective about what they were saying, when actually they were just sort of elaborating on their idiosyncratic likes and dislikes, which I think is still sometimes the case. But Andrew's words compelled me to change my major, not because he spoke about art for its own sake, but because he spoke about art as compassion. He told me that the arts could address things that ordinary language couldn't. That the arts could make us better. That the arts could be a way of caring about each other. I couldn't imagine how art might do those things, but everything else Andrew was talking about made sense, and many things that he said were things that I've been thinking or trying to think for a long time. So we went to the registrar's office together, and the next semester I was here studying art. With no background in art, I had no ability in craft or composition that I could rely on. I couldn't pretend like I knew what I was doing or fake anything that I was doing, because I just didn't actually know what I was doing at all. So the only way for me to avoid failing completely was to try to be as honest as I could be. I had to make the most honest things I could make. And in order to make honest things, I had to confront things in myself that I tried to get away from for a long time. I had to remember Little Sebago Lake. I've learned from studying art and from reading Heidegger and Saussure in my classes in philosophy that the question to ask about the scene at the lake is not, what is it? That's an obvious thing. It's a lake, it's the sky, it's a tree line. The question to ask is, in what way is it the thing that it is? You know the names of the things you're seeing, but forgetting the names, what do you really see? On the shore of that inlet behind the cottage, where the sky is immense and the water is dark at the surface, things otherwise hidden begin to be revealed. In the vast space, your smallness, both materially and temporally, is unavoidable. You have little control over the sun, over the movement of the clouds, the ripple of the water, the activities of other creatures in the world. You're not powerful, and your existence is transitory. You have a short time in the world, and a short time in each of your experiences. Things perpetually change. Nothing is entirely stable. Between the water and the sky, the tree line on the opposite shore hides something from your view. What is beyond the pines? You can go there now, but it won't be the same when you arrive. Whatever's happening on the other side of those trees at this moment, it's completely lost to you. The darkness of the water, likewise, in the darkness of the water, likewise. Clarity gives way to ambiguity, and then ambiguity sinks into the unknown. What is there is within your reach, and also out of reach completely. The light moves slowly, the shadows of the trees grow longer, the day becomes cool, the sky turns from blue to orange, and then it becomes dark. And in the quiet, with only the sound of wind shushing through the pine needles, and the wet slapping of small waves on the wooden dock, and a few insects humming their nightly songs, these revelations are impossible to ignore. Though they feel less pronounced when space and time are more full, the lake is always there, and it's always immense. Time is always shifting. Many things are hidden, and many things are lost. I've been trying for 20 years to find some place to hide from all of those things, but there's nowhere that I can go where those things aren't true. To enter into the reality of Little Sebago Lake, or of the morning light that sits heavy on my bed sheets, or my terrible fear of losing friendships, or my failed marriage that ended 2 years ago, or my failed attempts to construct a place where I'd be safe from all those other realities, is to enter into hope. There are many false hopes, efforts to convince myself that things will be okay when they won't, or that things will get better when they won't, or that I have control over my circumstances when I don't really have that. But in doing away with those false hopes, a true hope emerges. The sky over the lake is not an emptiness. It's not nothing. It's something. The weight of it that presses down on me is a presence. Looking out over the lake, something is revealed. What you know in the darkness of the water, or in the tree line, or in the immense sky, is something within yourself. What you know but cannot say about those things is nonetheless a knowledge that can be shared. So looking at this painting, I don't know how many of you can actually see that painting, but you can imagine it for a moment. Looking at this painting, you see that it's a painting of a tower, but as with the lake, the question to ask is not what is it? It's an obvious thing, it's obviously a tower. The question to ask rather is, in what way is this a painting of a tower? So closer observation is needed. In the painting, you see something that looks like a pyramid. It's actually a ziggurat. This is going to be totally unhelpful for you. See the painting. Can somebody hold this for me? Sure. You can see it now. Except for the back. You can stand up. You can see something in this painting that it looks like a pyramid. It's actually a ziggurat, but that's not necessarily evident just from its appearance. And it's not really that important that it's a ziggurat. Here the ziggurat sits in the center of the painting. It's painted so as to appear tall in the picture plane. It's monolithic, ancient, and imposing. A pyramid shape is the strongest shape structurally, so this form is meant to be stable and lasting. And yet a closer look reveals that the structure is made up only of stripes, with gaps in between them that reveal an underlayer, a former surface. The background is painted in after the form, pushing against its edges and reversing ordinary space, another instability. It's painted thinly, revealing some more of the underlayer, again problematizing the space. The background also becomes the ground under the form, and that ground is literally dripping off of the picture plane at the bottom of the image. And the image, which includes a form painted using perspective lines and suggesting a light source, in other words, gesturing toward representation and painting as a window into a scene, is an intense relationship with the object that is the canvas itself, its objecthood emphasized by the objects attached to it and the thickness of the stretcher. Everything in this painting, and especially the central form, which in its verticality and proportion suggests the human figure, is in conflict and tension. Nothing is certain. Stability is called into question. Structure, monuments, space, perception, and effort are all called into question. Thank you so much. That's some of what's happening in that painting. Those aren't subjective opinions about the painting. They're objective observations that anyone can make, and that you've all just made with me. The hope of Little Sebago Lake and the hope of this painting is that there's something in the world, something tangible and observable, that is very much really itself, a lake or paint on a canvas, and also gestures towards something else, instability, effort, disorientation, transitory, etc. You experience the lake or the painting with your senses, but you know what the darkness of the water is or the weakness of a monolithic structure is in your life. Even things that cannot be verbalized can still be known and shared. For the art people in the room, I'll just side note that this painting has an obvious superficial similarity to Anselm Kiefer's work because it's a pyramid form, and there are objects stuck to the canvas. However, when making a painting like this, I'm thinking more about Fairfield Porter, Agnes Martin, and Giorgio Morandi than Kiefer. A work like this is in dialogue with their compositional choices much more than his. The work that I've made this year is personal. It's first and foremost for myself. I made it as part of my own search. My decisions in the work have not been aesthetic ones. My choices have been motivated by a concern for more than how the work looks. Though the visual is essential to engaging these pieces, I don't care if the work ultimately comes out looking a certain way. I care if the work works, if it helps me, if it helps us, to enter into the world and into our lives, to be attentive to one another, and to be honest human beings. Every material and compositional decision is subservient to those concerns. I've made works in multiple mediums for this show and the installation: oil painting, sculpture, and film. I've chosen those mediums because they're obvious choices. I'm not interested in creating something that focuses on the uniqueness of the medium. I'm interested in the medium remaining as invisible as possible. The works are made using ordinary, familiar materials: bricks, wood, cups, paper, flowers, feathers, water, thread. Those things are familiar in daily living, and oil paint, canvas, and digital video, which are familiar in the art world. I've used those materials exactly because they're familiar. They're the materials that we encounter in our actual lives. The materials haven't been disguised. They never pretend to be anything other than what they are, or when they might for a moment seem to be pretending. That illusion is quickly taken away. In the installation at Open Wabi, they and their limitations are revealed at every opportunity. Wood is screwed together clumsily, paint fails to cover the whole height of the sculpture, bricks are stacked inconsistently, paintings are quickly made in thick layers. 3 films play at once, disrupting each other's space. Persons in the films acknowledge the camera, making direct eye contact with the viewer. This is true of the paintings that you see here also. The properties of paint are emphasized through drips, through thick layers and thin layers. The brushwork is left in and evident. Objects are attached to the canvas to undercut any possibility of illusionary space. This revealing of the material and the medium is not only an attempt to keep my work honest and human and to situate these works in the space of everyday life. It is those things, but it's also a way of indicating that these are paintings, sculptures, and films. There's no theatricality. There's little possibility of immersion in another world. The works in their very making are constant reminders of their firm situation in this world. And in the installation, the pieces are presented together as another way of pointing beyond the qualities of any individual work. By putting them together, it becomes the relationship between the works, the gaps or spaces between them, that is the focal point. The individual works as images and objects become a body of work, as a gesture or a pointer, directing my attention and hopefully yours, past the water of the lake or the sky above it, and into the darkness of the water and the heaviness of the sky. and the way the water is in our lives, and the sky, and the darkness, and the weight. The works are there at first, but the more time you spend with them, the less they're objects, and the more they become openings, ways in toward the truth of things, toward what we all know and are not able to say. They grant you and I access to another kind of space. It's not a space that's outside of this world. It's an inside that's present in all things. To use the vocabulary of semiotics, which I studied a little bit this year, I hope that these works might function not as signs, not as a kind of language that calls to mind concepts and ideas and generalizations, but as poetic signifiers, that rather than calling to mind a concept of a thing, they might be a call to attentiveness to the thing itself. As we ask for the lake and the painting, so we have to ask for things in the world, of experiences, of interior sensations, of the persons around us. Not what is this? That question only leads to generalizations. In naming, we overlook the thing in front of us in favor of an idea we already have in our heads. The better question is, in what way is this the thing that it is? The space of what exists outside of language, outside of concepts, outside of the overlay of our preconceptions and assumptions, is a primordial space of newness and possibility, a sacred space in which the divine presence radiates from every object in the world, a compassionate space in which we can see each other as if for the first time, putting aside what we think we know, to truly be present with one another, to keep each other warm, and to help each other be less alone. The reason I mention the mustard seed and the treasure is because none of these things are large, impressive, or beautiful. The kingdom of heaven, the non-verbal, the presence of God in the world and in all things, is not something that can be made comfortable, easy, large, impressive, strong, beautiful. It's a treasure in a muddy field. It's a mustard seed. It's small, hidden, and quiet. The voice of God is a whisper. And we don't need work that will turn that whisper into a shout. We need work that will teach us to listen. That's what I'm trying to learn to do. I'm making these works to teach myself, to give myself a way in, and through the way in that I find, to provide an altar, a path, a pointer, or a guide for others. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. This isn't something that I can do half-heartedly. It's not something that someone else can do for me. I'm not talking about a kind of art. I'm talking about art that lets me into a way of being. I'm talking about selling everything I have. I'm talking about buying a pearl that has no name. I'm talking about a white stone at the end of everything. I'm not talking about a way of getting out, but a way of getting further in. I'm talking about what we might already find here. I'm talking about walking every row, every field with a trowel in my hand until I find what I've been searching for. I'm still talking about changing the world, but not by getting out of it, by entering more deeply into it. And perhaps that change will be a mustard seed. One afternoon about a month ago, I woke up from a nap. My mind was still in that place between sleeping and being awake, where things are kind of weird. And so I decided to watch the films that I had made for this show. I'd watched them many times already, but this time I saw something new in them. I realized they were not primarily about my parents, which I knew before, and they were not about transients, which I had thought they were. They were about holding together and holding on. Everything in them was trying to stay upright and trying not to collapse. They were about the effort to keep going, and about the failure and hope embedded in that effort. I began to look around at all the work that I made this year, and many of them are the same way. They're keeping together against forces of decay, trying to stand against forces pressing down on them, trying to hold something up or hold on to something against forces that pull apart. My work is called Place Your Hands Over Me. It's not just the title. It's the opening line for prayer. The rest of the prayer is here and in Fredericktown. It's a prayer that though my efforts often fail, God might see that I've tried, that I'm still trying, and that I haven't resigned myself to failure. Though I'm less than I meant to be, that God still might place his hands over me and call me good. Your questions are welcome. I have 10 minutes to wait. Half minutes and 50 seconds for that.
Luke, you said the ziggurat's not important.
Yeah.
But it's real specific. So why is ziggurat?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's on a pyramid, it's a ziggurat.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, in some ways, it could have been a pyramid and the painting wouldn't suffer from it. And that's what I mean when I say that it's not important. I mean to say that it's not something that you need to know in order to have access to what the painting is doing. However, it's a ziggurat rather than a pyramid because when I started making paintings of ziggurats, and there are several that I've done over the few years that I've been here, I was thinking about the Tower of Babel, which historically was probably a ziggurat, and I was thinking a lot about my own attempts to construct something that would last. So I think a lot of the things the painting is doing without me saying it's a ziggurat, that's what I was concerned with. So for me, painting it as a ziggurat was a way into what I wanted the painting to do, and as it's kind of evolved, I think those ideas can depart from, and have departed in many cases, from the image of a ziggurat, in the form of a ziggurat, but it still remains in some of the paintings for that reason. Yeah.
Can you speak more about poetic signifiers, kind of what you mean by signifier, and also how that might be, you talked about it relevant within the lives of persons, which I thought was significant. Can you talk about how that might push against or bolster what's happening kind of in contemporary art? Like, to give an example, Paul Pfeiffer's videos that you know, where there is like a celebration of a dunk in a basketball game, but he cuts out all sound and he's just showing you like one motion over and over again, which creates an instability also. So that also creates an instability and looking into a part of reality, a disruption in reality. But you're kind of talking about also looking into, but you're using poetic signifiers. Can you talk more about how that's different than what Paul is doing, or different than contemporary work?
It's a complex question, but I'll try.
Sorry.
That's good. To briefly talk about my use of the term poetic signifiers, I made that up. But I borrowed some of that from, as I mentioned, from semiotics, which I studied a little bit this year, and to simplify probably an overcomplicated thing. In semiotics, very briefly, in semiotics, communication in language makes use of something called the sign. And the sign has two parts, the signifier and the signified. So in the signifier, if we're talking about words, and communicating via words, the signifier is actually the word. And the signified is the concept the word refers to in your mind. So it calls forth this idea in your mind. And my question about the signifier-signified relationship is that there's this other thing in semiotics called the concrete referent, which is the actual thing that the signified is supposed to be connected to. But I think on a regular basis there's kind of a disconnect there. So who cares about semiotics, but it seems important to me because I feel like that's happening in my conversations. I mean, I feel like we're talking about stuff, but we fail to actually pay close attention to what it is that we're talking about. We're referring to ideas and concepts without actually being with each other, without actually seeing the thing for what it is. So I'm interested in the possibility that there's this other layer beneath the empirical, which I think the signified sort of attaches itself to. But there's an experiential layer that can't be talked about, and as soon as you name it, you reduce it to something else. So that's some of what I thought about with the poetic signifier. Yeah, that's where I came up with that. Poetic comes from Heidegger, and that's a long story. But in any case, as far as Paul Pfeiffer's work is concerned, I mean, in some ways, I think the poetic is just something that's already in the world. I mean, I think that poetry and things like Paul's work in some way is poetic, because you can closely observe this thing, and you can see that there's this person who maybe is in this moment of turmoil or anxiety. I think maybe my problem with Paul's work, if I had a problem with it, would be that I mean, maybe the choice of medium is a strange one, and maybe the repetition of one movement feels like it doesn't do a whole lot beyond just sort of pointing to something like anxiousness. I mean, in a way, it's almost another signifier. It's almost another word that just says, hey, this person is experiencing anxiety or something, and yeah, so I think it's a little bit limited, but anyway, I don't know if anybody here knows Paul Pfeiffer, so that would be all I say about that.
Talk talked about the idea where we said, paraphrasing it about it wrong, so correct me if I did. So like you said somewhere along the way, I'm not necessarily interested in the aesthetic, I'm interested in the work works. And yet, when you look at your installation, when you look at your paintings, if we define aesthetic as what it looks like or how we engage it, I would argue that you're truly interested in aesthetic. I mean, there's nothing unconsidered in your installation. Everything from space to choice to move to an off-campus site. So can you unpack what you mean there about like I'm not interested in aesthetic, I'm interested in the word works, and I find that maybe problematic.
I think when I'm using the word aesthetic there, I'm using it in the more strict sense of sort of a concern for beauty or like gaining pleasure from the visual, which is what I'm not interested in. Certainly, I think that the visual is instrumental to these works. It's the only way that you can engage them and enter into them because they're visual works. I think the other thing that I mean is that if we stop at the visual, which might be what I'm saying by the beautiful, I'm not interested in the aesthetic, because that would be stopping at the visual and saying that's enough. It's just visual, and I'm just sort of enjoying this experience of looking at the work. And I just couldn't care less about that, like at all, for sure, ever. So that's why I say that. I really want. I think that the visual can offer a way into some things that. And let me clarify this too in this moment. That when I say like nonverbal or non-linguistic, I don't mean wordless. Like poetry is nonverbal. I mean, novels can be nonverbal, like there's all kinds of language-based art that I think can absolutely be poetic and use words to do it. And there might even be a greater tension there, which could be really interesting. But I think that in any case, the visual or the verbal being used to gesture past its limits. I think I'm interested in that. I'm interested in where the gesture is pointing past the limits of even what the visual can do.
Right, and I guess follow that up. Like, when I saw the show and then somebody asked me about it, I actually used the word beautiful at times because I think that it is in a sense, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop at the surface level of like even how beautiful works are stacked and how whether you want to call it romantic gesture or weeds coming out of it. Or the films and how they're selected. I mean, there's obviously that kind of aesthetic choices being made, but I would agree with you that it doesn't remain there. Maybe it's the point of what is signified takes over.
Yeah, I think the sort of it's happenstance that there's something beautiful in the work. I mean, if it all needed to be grossly ugly, but that would be sort of another extreme that would be unnecessary. So, it doesn't start from a place of me saying, how can I make something beautiful? If it happens to be beautiful. I mean, the other thing is that the word beautiful is like incredibly subjective, so it might be beautiful for you to see as a rock with weeds growing out of it, but for somebody else that might be like dumb looking, so there's that. Yes?
So my perception, I guess, of a lot of your work, or at least part of this artist statement, I think is a feeling of hopelessness, but then also hope, and I think there's definitely a contrast there. And so I guess I'm more asking about your personal experience with the work of, creating that signify, that thing that can't be named, and trying to figure out what that is. Have you found a sense of hope in knowing that there is, or maybe contentment, I guess, knowing that there's a way to be in that place, not knowing, not having a place, and not having direction, and still like, I don't know, it's a weird balance. I guess I'm kind of asking like where you are, because you talked about your journey of getting to art and to this place of using this as a searching tool, I guess. So like, how would you say you are?
I think it's a good question. I think you're totally right. There's like a lot of melancholy in the things that I make, and a lot of, I don't even know if I'm using that word right, but like it's sort of sad, right? So, and I think it's like that because my natural tendency is to dismiss things that are sort of sad, and to sort of think, just to like get over it quickly. And so for me, a lot of my engagement with it, like I talked about with engaging with Ilse of Vega Lake, is a self-confrontation, kind of confronting my own weakness in that area. But I think it's also, where there are moments of hope in the work. I hope that as a body of work, it's a work in tension, because I want it to acknowledge the kinds of tension that I experience in my daily life. So like people that I have a decent relationship with, or even a quite good relationship with, for the most part, there are moments when we're talking and hanging out, and it feels like we really know each other, and like they know something of me that I don't know how to say. And then there are moments when we're hanging out and I think, God, you don't know me at all. And both of those things are simultaneously true. That this person deeply knows me, and in another way doesn't know me at all. And I think that I'm just describing one instance of that happening in the world, but there are so many things that are like that it simultaneously feels like it's totally this way, and also totally this way. And how are these two things coexisting? I have no idea. So in many ways, I feel like that comes in when I'm making things, that there are things that are simultaneously hopeful and also like sad. But I don't want it to end at sort of a despair or something. Because I maintain hope about my life and my relationships and so on.
We have one more here, about
Yes.
7 seconds.
7 seconds.
But finish the question and everything, take your time and finish.
Yeah, so this is probably going to be not enough time to fully answer this, but I want to ask it. But so you've talked a lot about your work actually as poetic signifiers and moving into an experience of this weight, something, what's kind of what the work is not necessarily pointing as a sign to, but what's kind of experienced after, the work. But what is the value of the work if you can't reach that point? If as a viewer you can't reach that point with you, if you can't make that journey, what is the value of this work to you? Is it completely null and void? Do you have anything from that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's totally worthless for those viewers. I think they should just not look at it. They shouldn't waste their time. Legitimately, because, and it's not anything wrong with those viewers. It may just be something that's not relevant in their lives. I'm making the work first and foremost because it's a way that I need to enter into my questions and the difficulties that I experience in the world. And if there's someone for whom those questions and difficulties doesn't resonate, I think that's totally okay. And I think they should seek out things that do resonate for them. I would also say maybe they could spend more time with it, more time thinking about it. I think, to some extent, I'm using compositional techniques that I've learned, here, absolutely. And so some knowledge of what those compositional moves might be could be helpful for those viewers. An artist statement could be helpful for those viewers. We could also have a conversation about it, which might help them find a way in. But if none of those things work, I think that's okay. I think that maybe they'll just enjoy the way it looks, and if they hate it, then they should go find someone else's work as well.